Hello students, welcome to Trunkie Academy, and today we'll start with another topic. Okay, and like we were studying about the um, uh, different types of physiological system, and after finishing that, now the new chapter will start. That is the heredity and evolution. So in heredity and evolution, we have the topic. First topic is the heredity, and we'll start with this topic, that is the heredity. Okay. Now, before I will go into detail, okay, I'll give you some brief idea that you must have observed that some people are very tall, some are very short, okay. Some has got a long nose, some has got short nose, some has got curly hair, some has got straight hairs, some are having the blue eyes, some are having the brown, and some are black, okay. Some are having the free ear lobes, and some are attached, okay. So all these features, okay, all the different features are controlled that by the heredity, and this is actually the a kind of chemical substance gene is regulating all these features in the, okay. And now first start with the what is the heredity and genetics. So there is a study. First, what is genetics? Genetics. Okay. Genetics deals with the study of heredity and various the heredity and that means the study of heredity and variation, that is the subject or the study that is called the genetics. Okay, so how the transmission of characteristics takes place from parents to offspring. Okay, how different variation takes place in animals and human races. All this comes under the subject called genetics. Okay, so that is about the genetics. Now, what is heredity? Okay, now the definition of heredity. The transmission of characters traits, characters and traits from one generation to another, from one generation to the next generation, Okay. Next generation. This is called heredity. Okay. So heredity is actually the transmission, okay, or the mode of transmission, or transmission of the features, characteristic features, or characteristic traits, okay, from parents to the offspring, or from one generation to the next generation, okay. That is the heredity. Okay. So this was now. The differences in the characters or traits between the parents and the offspring is called the variation. Okay. Now another important definition is the what is variation? Variation with regard to genetics. Okay. So the differences in the characters traits between the parent and offspring is called variation. Okay, so that means nowadays you have understood what is heredity and what is variation. Heredity is the transmission of characters or traits from one generation to another, that means from parents to offspring, and variation is the differences in characters. Okay, so there will be some differences in the offspring from parents. Okay, these differences is the variation. So these variations are very important because this serves as the raw material for evolution. So evolution is another topic in this chapter that we will study later on. Okay. So variations are of two types. Okay. So types of variation. One is the somatic variation. That means the variation in the somatic tissues or somatic cells. Okay. Somatic variation. It takes place in the body cells. This variation takes place in body cells. Takes place in body cells. Takes place in the body cell. Okay. So any kind of variation that is found in the body cell and body tissue in the body is somatic cells. Okay. Then what is then another type? I will tell you that also. Body cell. There are other points also to note down. Okay. It is neither inherited nor transmitted. It is neither inherited nor transmitted. And that means it is not transmitted and inherited. Okay. It is also known as acquired character. It is also, that means during the lifetime this character is acquired, so it is also known as acquired character. Known as acquired character. Acquired characters. Okay. Then there is the example, cutting of tails in dogs. So that is not by birth. Okay, so cutting was done after the birth, so that is the not the gametic that is the somatic variation. Cutting of tails of dogs. Okay. Then the boring or making hole. Okay, small boring of pinna. Okay. In human beings, we know that, and especially in the woman, they are boring the external ear pinna for earring, is it? So these features, these are done after. It's not inherited. Okay, it's not that everybody is generation after generation boring the ears, and in the fifth generation or seventh generation, the new child will born with a kind of small hole in the external ear. It's not like that. It's not inherited. Okay. If you cut the tail of a dog, okay, and then the new generation will come, again you will cut, the third generation will come again. So after 5 generations or 10 generations or 20 generations, there will be no tail or a smaller tail in the dog. It is not like that, because this is somatic variation. This is not gametic variation. Gametic variation we observe, that is inherited. So we will see that also, okay. So somatic variation, the change or variation that we observe in the body cells, okay. So now the another variation is the gametic variation. So this is inherited. Okay. Gametic variation means from the gamete. Okay. The sex cells. Gametic variation. Okay. Takes place in the gamete. The change takes place in the gamete, and hence it is absorbed in the phenotype. In the individual, takes place in the gamete. Yes. In the gamete. Okay, so takes place in the gamete. Okay, So this is that, and also called reproductive cells or sex cells. Okay, reproductive cells. Then we have got inherited as well as transmitted. Inherited as well as transmitted. It is known as acquired characters. It is inherited as well as transmitted, also known as inherited traits. Also known as inherited traits. Inherited traits. Okay, and examples are height, okay, skin color. Now, so height of the person, color of the skin, okay, or I mean the skin tone, okay, and other features like the curly hairs or the straight hair, all these different features, the traits that may be inherited, and that is the variation is in the gametes. Okay, that's the gametic variation. Okay, so there are two types of variation, somatic and gametic. Okay, and when these variation is accumulated during reproduction, so this is called the accumulation of variation during reproduction. Okay, so this is important point because this accumulation and the variation it forms the basis for the evolution. Okay, and it is the raw material for evolution. Okay, so in case of asexual reproduction, the variation is very less and there is no chance of variation because the same set of gene comes. Okay, there is no recombination because in the sexual reproduction we know that the gametes are fusing. Okay, there is fusion of gametes. Also, a new set of gene. Okay, a new combination is formed in the diploid zygote. Okay, so that gives rise to variation. Okay, so why the variation is important? That is very important. Okay, and that you have to know because this is important for exam. Importance of variation. This is a very important question. Importance of variation. Importance of variation. Okay. So first point is that depending on the nature of variations, individuals would have different kind of advantage, different kinds of advantage. Okay, depending on the nature of variations. What type of variations? Example: bacteria that can withstand heat or that can survive at very high temperature. So that has got advantage for surviving at very high temperature. So that variation which has caused in bacteria to survive in the heat. So there is advantages for that bacteria. Okay. So this is number one, and number two. Then main advantage of variation. Main advantage of variation to species is that it increases the chance of its survival. Increases the chance of its survival. Okay, in changing environment. That also we should add it. Okay, in changing environment. Now try to understand this. Main advantage is that the variation occurs in the species, so that provides advantage for the species or for the organisms to adapt in the particular environment. Okay, so that increases the chance of survival. Okay, because in the changing environment, okay, in the environment is changing, environment is changing, and the change or new environment is not suitable for the particular organism. Okay, so that organism should adapt, should change. Okay, should bring about some variations to adapt in the new or changed environment. So if that new the change is not coming, okay, then there is a less chance of survival, and that may be eliminated from or that may be extinct. Okay, so to adapt or to increase the chance of survival, the variation is important. Since variation occurs, okay, the animals are able to adapt in the changing environment. Okay, this is the main point. Okay, so free ear lobes attached, there are two variants in human population. This is very simple. Now I will come to the Mendel and his work and everything. Before that, we will discuss some important terminologies. Okay, but the thing is that when the scientists or the biologists, okay, or the botanists, when they started studying about the mode of transmission of characters or traits from parents to offspring, okay, so they did so many different experiments, and the different conclusions were drawn, and then they came to some different laws. Okay, one of the famous scientists and one of the pioneer scientists in the of genetics and studying the heredity. Okay, he was the Gregor Johann Mendel. Okay, so you already have maybe heard his name. Now we'll study, and he did some experiments with a plant called pea plant, and he formulated some laws. Okay, depending on the result that he obtained from his experiment. Okay, so before we will go to that experiments, okay, there are some important points we should know, that what is phenotype, what is genotype, what is gene. Okay, maybe the terms you have heard, but you may not be knowing exactly what is the definitions. Okay, some of that when you are studying, okay, any topic, you must also should know how to define. Okay, sometimes you are know that, because I have come to know, and when I asked in one student in class 11 what is metabolism, that student was not able to. He knew the answer but was not able to tell the definition. Okay, sometimes it happens. When I asked one of the students what do you mean by the anabolic process, okay, he knows that it is a synthesis of some product, okay, some kind of substance of macromolecule process, but he was not able to tell the definitions. Okay, not confident. That is because the concept is not clear. Okay, so you have to try to understand it very clearly, and also you should always correlate, okay, with your different simple examples or examples that you observe in your day-to-day life. Okay, so before we start with the Mendel's experiment and what are the work that he did during his studies on the on heredity and on the pea plant experiment, okay, we should know that there are some terms, important terms, that is genotype, phenotype, okay, gene, chromosome, etc. Okay, so starting with the genotype. Okay, now what is genotype? Now when we say phenotype, means it is the visible characters. Now from outside, okay, for example, somebody is tall, somebody is short in height, okay, somebody is very dark, and somebody is very fair, or somebody has got a blue eyes, somebody has got a black eyes, somebody has got brown eyes, somebody has got the curly hair, somebody has straight hairs. Okay, so all this, that is, you can from the outside it is visible and you can observe. Okay, the morphology. Okay, so that is the phenotype. But genotype means they are from alleles. Okay, how the alleles are coming. There are one dominant and one is the recessive. That we'll see. So we first write the definition. Then the genotype means the genetic constitution. The genetic constitution how it is constituted, okay, comprised of an organism, of an organism. Example, genotype of human male, genotype of human male is 44 plus XY, and XY are the sex chromosome, and genotype of human female, genotype of human female is 44 plus XX. Okay. Now, in case of let us consider one example about the experiment that Mendel did. He found that there are some there are two forms for one trait, okay, or one character, okay. So he knew. Now we are the scientists, and we also know that there are two forms of one. Okay, one is dominant and one is recessive. Okay, so the dominant is represented by the capital letter, and the recessive is represented by the small letter T. Okay, and so if there is both the capital T are there in the progeny, so that will be expressed as the tall height. Okay, and if it is one is capital T, okay, and one is small t, then also it will be represented as, and it will show, and the effect will be shown as the tall height. Okay, it will be tall height. The plant will have the tall height. Okay, but in both the cases, okay, it will be small t, then it is the short height, and it will be dwarf. Okay, not tall. So that means this is the reason, because we saw that in case of this, in both these cases it is tall, right? So, and in this case is it dwarf. Okay, in this case only. So this is the dominant feature. The tall is the dominant feature. So dominant character, and we find that most of the plants are dominant in the tall. Okay, because this is dominant. So, but in this case, we know that this is the phenotypically it's tall. Okay, this is also tall, but this is genotypically it is homozygous. It is homozygous. Now understand what is homozygous and what is heterozygous. So this is homozygous tall, and this is heterozygous tall. Heterozygous tall. Okay, both are tall, but this is heterozygous tall. Okay, this which one? And then this one. Okay, because its genotype, not trying to understand what is genotype. Its genotype is capital T, small t. Capital T is genotype. Phenotype is tall. Phenotype is tall in both the cases. Okay, but genotype, genetic constitution, the constitution in the gene. Okay, in the genetic constitution, we know that it is one is capital. Since capital T is dominant feature, the recessive cannot be expressed unless it has both are small t. So this is the heterozygous tall. Okay, so now we come to the another point, that is the phenotype. We come to the phenotype. Okay. Appearance of the organism, that is the way in which genotype is expressed. Okay, the appearance of an organism that is the way in which, that is the way in which genotype is expressed. Genotype is expressed. Okay, how it is genotype is going to express. Okay, so that phenotype. Another important point: phenotype is the result. Phenotype is the result of interaction of genes with the environment. Interaction of genes with the environment. So when you go to higher classes, you will study in so many things, okay? But according to the syllabus, this is an important point, that phenotype is actually how the organism appear, okay? And the appearance that is directed by the genotype, okay? So how the genotype is going to express, okay? Going to express, so that is the phenotype, okay? And heterozygous and homozygous I have already told you, okay? The zygote is formed means heterozygous means the word has come from zygote, okay? One has come from the male, okay? So and one has come from the female, okay? Now the fertilization, the zygote is formed, okay? It is both are both the both the gametes is the same, capital A, capital. So homozygous. Homo means same. So one is capital, one is small. It's a hetero, not dissimilar. So it is hetero. So that I told you. Now what is gene? This is an important point. Okay, many students they have heard the term, but they are not able to answer, and they are getting confused, and they don't try to understand also. They say, oh, they have understood half, and they continue their study with that half knowledge. Okay, about they have some vague idea. Don't do that. You try to understand what is gene. Okay, so it is a basic unit of inheritance actually. Okay, in the cell there is different cell organelle, and within the cell we have got one prominent central structure, that is the nucleus, and within that nucleus is the chromosome, and within that chromosome is the chromatin fiber, and within that chromatin fiber is DNA. Okay, and the nucleosome is there, and within the nucleosome is the octacore molecule on which the DNA are wounded. So in the DNA there is some base pairs. Okay, so these base pairs in triplet codon, they form one gene. These genes are responsible for producing one particular responsible for expressing and coding one particular type of amino acid or protein, and thus they are responsible for controlling one character or one feature. Okay, so this means that these genes are actually the you can say the DNA are the blueprint of the organisms. Okay, because the organisms which they are produced in the next generation, they depend on the DNA, the copies of DNA that is there in the parents. Accordingly, the characters that will be in the progenies or the offspring. So accordingly, that is according to the DNA that is there in the parent. Okay, so that means the gene it is the basic unit of inheritance. It is the basic unit of inheritance. By which characters are transferred from parents to their offspring. So that means it is a unit of inheritance. Okay, this is the because when some characters are transmitted from parents to offspring, this gene is the play the main role. This gene has got some important role. They direct the appearance of the characters in the next generation in the offspring. Okay, so this is it. Okay, gene consists of a specific length of DNA on chromosome. Gene consists of a specific length specific length of DNA on a chromosome. On a chromosome. Okay. So then we write a specific segment of DNA that provides the information that provides the information for one protein. Is called gene for that protein. Okay. So, for example, if somebody has got the blue eyes, okay, and somebody has the black eyes, okay, so the protein that causes the formation of this blue eyes, okay, the pigment, so that is encoded by a certain genes, okay, a certain segment of the DNA. So that certain segment of the DNA which is responsible for encoding that particular type of protein, which is responsible for forming the blue eyes, so that becomes the gene for that blue eyes. Okay, so that way the gene plays a very important role, and it is called the unit of inheritance. Okay, so this was about the. Now another important point before we start the Mendel's experiment, that is the allele. Okay, so what is allele and what is a trait and character? So don't get confused with the trait, character, and alleles. Okay, so allele means it is alternative form. Like I told you, capital T, small t. So capital T and small t, the alternative forms. Okay, of a gene. Okay, so allele. It is an alternative form of a gene, occupying the same position, occupying the same position on a chromosome and affecting the same character, affecting the same character, but in two alternative ways. But in two character, but in two alternative ways. Okay. So that means if you say like height, so it will be tall and dwarf. If you say the shape of the seeds, so it will be wrinkled or smooth. Okay. If you say color of the seed, it will be green or yellow. Okay. So in alternatives, so two alternatives. Okay. So expressing the, now we write this also. Expressing alleles of a gene. Expressing alleles of a gene. Okay. So that means Homozygous dominant. Homozygous dominant. Dominant in capital letter. In capital. I told you in the beginning, before when I started the terminologies, capital letters. The example is the example. It is a tallness. So it will be capital T, capital T. Okay, and homozygous recessive. Homozygous recessive. Then it will be dwarf. Okay, dwarf. Dwarf. Okay, or then it will be represented by the small letter, small t, and heterozygous, tall. Heterozygous, tall. It will be called as hybrid tall. So it will be hybrid tall. So this will be your capital T, small t. Okay. So genotypically, this will be heterozygous. So phenotypically, it's tall only. We are not we are not able to understand it is without studying the genetic constitution from outside. We cannot say this is a heterozygous tall or a homozygous tall. Okay. Though the genetic constitution is the heterozygous, but phenotypically it will be tall only. So dominant. What is now dominant allele? Okay. So the allele means its alternative forms. Okay. Now in case of the dominant allele. An allele that affects phenotype, an allele that affects phenotype of an organism. Both in heterozygous and homozygous condition. Homozygous condition. It is denoted by capital letter. It is denoted by capital letter. That I have already told you, right? Like in case of the tall or it is the capital letter. Okay. So example, tallness in pea plant, that is noted by the example, tallness of pea plant denoted by capital T, right? So this way, and the recessive allele means recessive. An allele that affects phenotype, and allele that affects phenotype of the organism. In absence of dominant allele. In absence of dominant allele. That means when there is no dominant allele, okay, dominant for that character, then only it will be expressed, dominant allele. So that means when there is a small t, for dwarf, example dwarf, so it has to be small t, small t. So there is no capital T, okay. So that means it will be the verb. So this is about the different terms. Okay, homozygous, heterozygous, I have told you. Diploid, haploid, when the zygote from the gamete forms a sperm cell, that will contain a sperm cell will have the n number of chromosomes. N, haploid, this is called haploid. Sorry. Haploid number 23, and the ovum egg cell will have the n number of haploid. Okay, so when they fertilize, okay, this is also haploid. They fertilize, then it will form the 2n diploid. Okay, so this is about the haploid. So 23 numbers would be there. Okay, 23 numbers. I mean the 23 chromosomes. Okay, here also it will be the 23 chromosomes, and when it forms after fertilized zygote is formed, okay, after fertilization, then there will be the 46 chromosomes, that is 2 and diploid. So this is about the haploid and diploid. Okay, so this was all about the preliminary, the important points before we start the Mendel's experiment. Okay, accumulation of what is variation, what is genetics, and what are the different important terminologies that we must understand before go into details of the experiment conducted by the Mendels and the different the laws that he formulated. Okay, different hypotheses and the laws that he propounded after the result he obtained from his experiment. Okay, so tomorrow again we will continue with this. That is, we'll study about the Mendel's experiment. That is the monohybrid cross and dihybrid cross, the types of experiments. The cross he did, and he studied about the transmission of characters from parents to offspring. Okay, and he formulated some laws. Okay, so we will study tomorrow. And after this class, I will send you a DPP. Okay, that, as I told you already, when you go to your academic booster, you'll find the link called resources. Then you click on the writing material, and then you will get your DPP. Like if I click on the writing material, the DPP will be shown. And clicking on that DPP, you download that and go through the questions and answer those questions and send back to us for evaluation. Okay. So thank you for joining today and listening. And tomorrow again we'll meet at the same time. Till then, goodbye.